Good morning, everybody. Good morning. And to our very distinguished guests, a very warm welcome to you all. My name is Awasar. I am Assistant Director at the African Studies here at Michigan State University. And we are very pleased and honored to welcome you here at MSU for such an important event, the life and work of Micere Mugo Symposium, through which we celebrate one of Africa's greatest and brightest. So we're very, very honored to have you. Thank you for being with us. And just before we start, a few housekeeping issues. So we have breakfast items over there. Feel free to grab some. For the toilet, if you exit this room, on your left, if you go up to the hallway, we have toilets. On your right is the one for women, and on your left you have the restrooms for men. So now I will turn to our Interim Director of the African Studies Center, Dr. Zulu, for some opening remarks. Again, thank you everybody for being here.
So, good morning everyone, and thank you for coming to this symposium. It's been quite a little bit in the making, and I know this is a crazy time of the semester when everybody is rushed to finish up the semester, but you found the time to come here. And just a warning to people, there's our university president is passing by the building, so in the morning there are some people engaged in that. And so the day will wane, and the attendance will go up and down as the day proceeds, and we'll take it as it comes. So I just want to add a word of welcome to what I was saying, and to this symposium, Pan-Africanism, Africana, Feminism, and Orature, the life of and works of Micere Mugo. For some of you for whom this is the first time in East Lansing, please a warm welcome to East Lansing. For those that have been here before, please, we welcome you back. And I hope that you're all settled in and you are ready to participate in this important symposium. So as I said, Leo Zulu, I'm an interim director in the African Studies Center, but my mother department here is in geography. I'm in geography, environment, and spatial sciences, where I'm doing mostly nature society work. So I just want to touch base with you, and particularly to thank our colleagues from the Department of African and African American Studies, a new department that just started not so long ago, and we're excited about that for collaborating with us in putting together this symposium. So I'll just touch very briefly on the purpose of this symposium, mostly to celebrate and honor the life of Professor Micere Mugo, an illustrious African woman who started out, she's been a trailblazer in all her work, starting out as the first dean, the first female dean of the Faculty of Arts at the University of Nairobi in her early work, and an avid activist interested in human rights in Kenya, for which she paid dearly because she was arrested for quite a bit in the 80s, and then she went into exile in Zimbabwe, where she continued to teach there at the University of Zimbabwe in Harare. And moving on to the United States, she started an illustrious career doing amazing work and showing the leadership that she had displayed before. And a lot of what she did, she really had a profound belief in the power of storytelling, looking at the oral narratives and riddles and drama and songs and dance as the critical ways and instruments for preserving African oral histories. So earned a lot of awards and recognition for her work. At Syracuse, she was the chair of the Department of African American Studies. She was also co-director of the university's Africa Initiative. And then she, just to let you know that she passed away last year at the age 80 in June 2023. And she has left behind a really a legacy that's really hard to replicate. And that's why we meet here today to celebrate that legacy. Looking at lifetime awards, she's won a lot of those. Neo Tributes Missouri Lifetime Achievement Award in 2022. Distinguished Mwalimu Julius Nyerere Scholar Award. She has also gotten the Flora Nwapa Award for Excellence in African Literature. And again, underscoring the extraordinary work that she has done and recognition both in academia and outside academia. So we are very lucky that we have Professor Mugo's daughter is here with us. Mumbi is here. Could you please stand up wherever you're standing up? So she came all the way from New York, where an established entrepreneur of her own. And so she's joined us to celebrate her mother's life. And we're going to talk about her professional side. Mumbi is going to help us to fill out the personal side of herself. So most welcome for coming here. And it is a pleasure to share your mother on the professional side. So thank you very much. There's also, I just want to recognize Professor Horace Campbell here. It was his idea to start with, to suggested that we pull together this symposium in honor of Micere Mugo, a colleague that had worked together at the University of Syracuse. And so thank you very much for bringing this idea to us. And we are very glad that we could make it come to fruition. And so what we are looking at specifically then, what's particularly important about Micere Mugo is how she acted as a bridge across cultures, a bridge across disciplines, and particularly within the mode of Pan-Africanism, where she's melding together African literature, African feminism, and here across in the US, Africana studies, as well as Orature. So that's what we celebrate here, and that's why our illustrious panel comes from all sorts of disciplines that illustrate this bridging role that Micere Mugo played for us. So I'll just quickly go through what the objectives of this conference are then. So to explore this Mugo's grassroots Pan-Africanism, so we are looking at Pan-African feminism. We're emphasizing this pivotal role that she played in uniting Africana and African American studies. So we're also looking at a global history of her work and what some of that impact, the significance of this is for African feminism. So here we kind of focus on how the impactful contributions that she has made. And the third one is to shed light on her influence on storytelling and literature and activism and liberation struggles of African peoples. We also want to elucidate Micere Mugo's diverse contributions that really unite lots of disciplines together, as we will see when you look in the program, the illustrious panelists that we have here today. So 8 panelists. The way we've organized the symposium is in 2 panels. Each one will run 2 hours. And our illustrious panelists will speak about 20 minutes each. And then we have about 10 minutes of discussion for each. The moderators, our esteemed moderators, will decide how they want to run those sessions, whether everybody presents, and then we take comments after each, or later on that they will help us decide that. And so a wide range of topics, as you will see from the program, going all the way from African leadership, women's leadership in Africa, debates on African studies, and looking at issues of Ubuntu or Utu, and going a little deeper on African contribution, African philosophy, both in the Western world and all the way back in Africa. And issues of overcoming silences that are kind of embedded in this idea of Utu or Ubuntu, storytelling, and also diasporic experiences and transmission of culture among the Somali and how that navigates with the work of Micere Mugo, and finally these connections of Mugo's work back in Kenya, a kind of biographical work that we can hear about as well. So the panels, Pan-Africanism and Feminism, just organizing around, focusing mostly on feminism. And in the second panel is as literature and orature. Still, Pan-Africanism is a common theme that's running through all this thing. And over lunch, we have Professor Ndirango Wachangu is the official biographer of Micere Mugo. So he's also a movie maker, and so he made a video on Micere Mugo. So while we have lunch, and that will be available in the next room, we'll take about 30 minutes to get everybody all settled out, but then we'll screen that video as well, so you can have a sense of some of her life, both professional as well as in her everyday life. So to finishing up, then I really want to thank our excellent group of panelists, leaders in their fields, known, renowned nationally and internationally, English, literature, African history, and theater and drama. And again, just illustrating the richness of the Micere Mugo's touch across multiple disciplines. So thank you very much for agreeing to be part of this work, for coming here. And as we are introducing, the moderators will introduce you and give the biographies, which we also have in the program here. So, but just to mention those names, I look very quickly. We have here at MSU, we had Dr. Suban Cooley, who is here. If you just stand up. Thank you very much. I think Dr. Philip Effiong is teaching this morning, and he's going to join us later in theater. And then we have, just down the road, our sister school, Dr. Derek Peterson from the University of Michigan, and a historian over there at the University of Michigan. And further afield, outside of Michigan, and then we have Dr. West, Michael West, all the way from Philly, right? And in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania. We have Dr. Carol Boyce Davis, all the way from Howard and in the Washington, D.C. And then we have Dr. Ndirango Wachanga from Wisconsin, Micere Mugo's official biographer. And he's a biographer for some of the illustrious sons of Africa too, and their work. And then we have Dr. Horace Campbell. I already introduced him, and he's going to come later to kind of weave a little more this tie in terms of Micere Mugo's work, that bridging role as part of this ceremony. And then we also have Professor Wangui Wagoro joining us all the way from London, but remotely, because she was not able to join us. Yeah, so she's right there. She is. So welcome, and thank you very much for being part of this important symposium. And then I already introduced you to Mumbi, Dr. Mugo's daughter. And so, as I finish up, thank you very much to our co-sponsors here, and I will bring forth Dr. Ruth Nicole Brown, my colleague, the inaugural chair of the Department of African and African American Studies. But I also want to thank the English department. I want to thank the Alliance for African Partnerships, the Center for Gender in the Global Environment. And so at this point then, I invite Dr. Ruth Nicole Brown, this inaugural chair, and also MSU Research Foundation professor. So done lots of excellent work, widely published and widely recognized in her work, and And so she went to school down the road too, so Dr. Bates University of Michigan. So that's how we, that's how we, sometimes we bridge these differences, is interchange of people. So thank you very much,
Good morning. Good morning. I appreciate the introduction. As Leo said, my name is Ruth Nicole Brown, and I serve as the inaugural chairperson and professor of the Department of African American and African Studies here at MSU. It is a great honor and privilege to provide a few introductory remarks for the life and work of Micere Mugo Symposium. Firstly, I want to extend a warm welcome to everyone who is visiting with us today for this very special occasion. May peace surround you here during your visit. If you are partial to listening to the land, as I am, I hope you make some time during break to sing to the beautiful trees on campus, delight in the reflection and rhythm of the Red Cedar River, and feel the life force energy that is ever present in the new Department of African American and African Studies. We're located on the second floor of North Kedzie Hall. Thank you, Dr. Leo Zulu, Interim Director of the African Studies Center, for organizing the symposium and inviting our participation. I appreciate all the co-sponsors and everyone who played a part in making this symposium happen, with a special shout out to the staff and those working behind the scenes, creating conditions of comfort for our guests and us all. By way of introduction, I was born and raised about 3.5 hours from this very place in the south suburbs of Chicago, Park Forest, Illinois, to be exact. I am the youngest child of Lawrence and Evelyn Brown, whose parents, my grandparents, who were born both sides of the family in different parts of the state of Kentucky. You will then, I hope, understand that my people's migration sounds through my particular articulation of any and every word. So please allow even my missed pronunciations to connect us across whatever we may have once thought stranger until we decided to stay Black, not imposters, reaching towards Ubuntu and Ubuntu rootedness. By way of introduction, you must feel our department's aspiration. In AAAS, we insist that Black Studies uncovers and creates technologies of living for Black people and Black futures. And when we say Black people, we mean all Black people. And when we say Black futures, that is to say beyond survival into wellness. AAAS at MSU is a Black Studies department that embraces without apology Black feminisms, Black genders, and Black sexuality studies as integral to the labor, activism, and advocacy of Black life and Black life worlds. Professor Mugo's work, example, students, comrades, and sister friends help make us more possible. That AAAS is here now means that we have wholeheartedly received the blueprinted poetic wisdom of knowledge she produced so that generations now bloom fully with a familiar fragrance of all she wrote. Our work, therefore, our ongoing forever new build, is not as arduous as it could have been had she not taken care to make a way for those coming up now and next to beat each other's poem with other songs of one day, so that all of us together may, quote, move the sun of our existence so that it truly rises from the east of our lives, reaching its noon at the center of our needs. That's one of my favorite lines from Perfect Poem. By way of introduction, we walk with Professor Mugo, and Mugo walks with us. On this occasion, I'm actually inspired to read just a little bit of Mugo's poem, To Be a Feminist Is, in part as a reminder to you and to myself that the newness of AAAS is certainly not about being anyone's first. It's not about being no one's darling, nor is it about being made to suffer in silence. As I like to remind everyone, we too, those of us currently laboring on behalf of AAAS, are in a tradition that you could have read up on, Mugo being required reading. To be a feminist is, for me, to be a feminist is to embrace my womanness, the womanness of all my mothers, all my sisters. It is to hug the female principle and the metaphors of life that decorate my being. For me, to be a feminist is to celebrate my birth as a girl, to ululate that my gender is female. It is to make contact with my being. For me, to be a feminist is to denounce patriarchy and the caging of women. It is to wipe the fuzziness of colonial hangovers, to uproot the weeds of neo-colonial pestilence. I love that line. For me, to be a feminist is to hurl through the cannon of my exploding righteous fury, the cannonball named capitalism. It is to pronounce a death sentence on the ogre named imperialism. Just a little bit. We in AAAS are beneficiaries of Professor Mugo's advocacy as an African academician, poet, playwright, artist, cultural worker, daughter, and activist who insisted on doing differently, including the ways she acknowledged motherhood with a tangibly felt love and graciousness that leaps off the page every time she recognized her daughters. Louie, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you. And Injury, who we in AAAS will continue to know and remember along with her mom. We in AAAS are co-composers of uprising discourses with big love to Dr. Carol Boyd's Davis for all the ways she has beckoned us to decolonize our walk so as not to risk the people for the sake of careerism, nor wage unloving, oppressive relations in public or private under the cover that one is speaking to a position without also seeing Black femme power in all of its African, Caribbean, Black Pacific, artistic, creative glory staring right back at you, ready to affirm life, growth, and the collective realization of our most radical Black feminist imagination, now, here, in this present moment. In AAAS, we love that Mugo and Amandina Luhamba shared their friendship on the page and publicly. And while I did not have the opportunity to meet Professor Mugo in person, I did have the pleasure of learning from Amandina Luhamba at the University of Dar es Salaam. So you can't tell me about the limits of creativity, of Black feminist performance, of theater, of creative orature. The creative processes we engage consistently in our department, from our sound healings during fall and spring retreats to starting our meetings with collective breath, mindfulness, and setting creative intentions, to how we decorate ourselves, the space, with bold, bright prints, flowers, colors, are some of what allows us to be and become and embrace all that makes possible the sharing of experience for the purpose of our celebration, to defy containment, meant to divide and conquer those borders. And yes, also to explore the oppressive economic and political realities that suppresses our creativity and yours, so that to be a feminist is, and here I'm going to read a little bit again, because she said it best. And here, I wonder if we take this rhetorical question to be a very real question with expectation of a response. Professor Mugo wrote, "To what extent do our Africana studies, research, and scholarship efforts challenge the imperialist notion of a, quote, one and only system site of knowledge," end quote. The armed and political liberation struggles of coloniality, invaded and occupied lands happened at a great cost, she wrote. People were killed or maimed. Their lands were forcefully taken. Entire cultures were obliterated. Communities were subjected to servitude. The scars incurred on patriots who were often innocent people, including children, are inestimable. The long-term assault on the minds and souls of the survivors remains a trauma difficult to recover from. To be sure, the permanent damage that was caused centuries back persists, with the debilitating effect of a prolonged hangover, hanging over generations upon generations. To achieve complete conquest of the invaded, the dominators directed their missiles not just at the bodies, but at the minds and the souls of those they colonized. This is the process that has been described by many critics of colonialism as zombification, the erasure of personhood of the colonized, creating a tabula rasa, end quote, on which the colonizer could write whatever he wanted. It is the process of bleaching and whitening the minds, souls, and cultures of the conquered. This abuse and torture of the quote-unquote captives were a part of the colonizing mission and remains one of imperialism's objectives today. Thus, what I once called the, quote, battle of the mind in the 1980s remains a reality today. It is, therefore, the imperative duty on the part of all Africana scholars to plant themselves at the heart of the struggle if we are to create liberated zones in academia. On behalf of AAAS, welcome to the life and work of Micere Mugo Symposium. May we be exactly as she wrote, reborn through love, reminding survivors that breathing is politics and learning combat. Together, let us release a flood of unchecked powerfulness to lift her, him, and all the non-binary geniuses above the cliff of drowning despair. As the sun shines through our knowing and remember, Professor Mugo, you are here and we already belong. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you very much for those beautiful words. And now we want to welcome Professor Horace Campbell.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Thank you, Professor Nicole Brown, for that wonderful rendition. And welcome to all of us from AAAS, and for reminding us the beauty and art of poetry. And I think this is what we're here for today. I want to thank the African Studies Center and the Professor Zulu and Awa and Nando, how we sat down at dinner and talked about this as one way of intervening when there are so many efforts to get rid of African and Africana studies. And we are proud that the Department of African and African American Studies stands tall in this time when all over the country there are efforts to ban books and teach about black people, that there are discussions about critical race theory, and there's general fear of understanding the black experience. So the coming together of the African American Studies Department as a department that is one of the few departments in this country to grant doctoral degrees. You are in a space, in a state where there's so many challenges to what we do as not only academics, but black academics, anti-imperialist academics. And I think Micere Mugo is someone who's very fitting to lift us up to be able to brace this moment that we're in. I want to stress that the kind of collaboration that we are seeing today in the cooperation between the African Studies Center, Center for Gender and Global Context, the Alliance for African Partnership, the Department of English, and the AAAS is the kind of collaboration that Micere Mugo would support and she lived for. And all of my brothers and sisters who came from near and far, I think we share in coming here for this celebration. And I'm happy to see Mumbi. I haven't seen Mumbi I haven't seen you in the flesh since we went through the send-off. So Mumbi has held the family together and working in very challenging situation in family circumstances back in Kenya and the bigger global Pan-African family. So thank you, Mumbi, for holding up the strength to continue to be here and to be with us. So I'm here to just to say that thank you to our brothers and sisters here who put together the resources for this one-day symposium in paying tribute to a revolutionary Pan-African feminist who is known for her fight against oppression of all forms. She was not selective in what she fought against. And the brand of Pan-African feminism that she was associated with was a brand that was not based on Me Tooism or the Adam Steer Pan-African in feminism, because we've had a whole history of Pan-Africanism of great men, and in order to repair the focus on great men, you add the names of a few women without dealing with the substantive questions of the forms of exploitation, of oppression of people. Last weekend, I was in a two-day discussion with people who came out of the 60s and 70s and were associated with a journal called Black Scholar. And Black Scholar and Black Scholarship attempted to deal with the complex issues of capital and capitalism and its impact on black lives. And it is clear to us that we need robust scholarship and that our departments, African Studies, African American Studies, must stand up in this time. And we anticipate that in this symposium, we'll reassert those kinds of things that Micere Mugo stood for. Micere Mugo, as Professor Leo Zulu has stated, came out of the struggles of the Kenyan peoples. She matured in Kenya, and she did not allow herself to be called an exile, to be called someone who is exiled from Africa. She called herself a global citizen, and as a global citizen, she struggled wherever she found herself. We, in the Department of African American Studies in Syracuse University, we from Syracuse University Africa Initiative, we treasure the inspiration and the example that she set for the years that she was with us in the spirit, in the flesh. And we anticipate that her spirit and the progressive spirituality that she embodied is what will keep us at this moment when the future of African American Studies in Syracuse University is in doubt. The Department of African American Studies in Syracuse University is being defunded for the past 8-9 years. They're not renewing, we've lost 8 positions, they've not renewed those positions, and we're facing the challenge of surviving at a moment when the ideas of neo-fascism seeks to say that we will only want any kind of discussion of black people in the English department, in the history department, but not in a department where you can influence students. So I want us to draw together here to send messages to all parts of the country that African studies, African American studies is part of the struggles of the peoples of this country for dignity. And the basic idea of this symposium of struggling for our humanity, our collective humanity, which is in all aspects of the life and work of Micere Mugo. As a creative cultural artist, she deployed her ideas, her writing, her spirit of poetry, and she was organizing everywhere, not only in the university. And I want to stress this. As a university professional academic, she did not shy away from university committees, shy away from the university senate, shy away from being involved in all areas of struggles around the curriculum in the university, while not ignoring the community that she came from. So we have to see how she was a committed scholar. And Brother Michael West will know of this kind of abolitionism. And we know of the work of Ruth Gilmore in putting forward new abolition. Now, Micere Mugo was among the ranks of the new abolitionists. And as a professor in Syracuse University, she went into the prisons in upstate New York. She spent her time among those who were incarcerated to say that we cannot leave our brothers and sisters behind in this carceral capitalist system. And as a Pan-African feminist and womanist, as you heard in this poem, what it is to be a feminist, she was not afraid of taking on sacred cows. As we meet this morning, Brother Michael West reminded me that right before our very eyes, in the small country of Gambia, they want to bring back in the legislature, bringing back female genital cutting and bringing back these practices in Africa. Now, Micere Mugo was not shy in trying to stand up for African peoples and African women, and there were no sacred cows among African feminists for Sister Micere. When Alice Walker wrote a book and to talk about female genital cutting, Micere was one of the few black women to stand up and to speak out to say, you have to be able to oppose female genital cutting without opposing African women. And you have to have the kind of sophistication to be able to do this when you propose feminism. This is a kind of bravery, and Michael West will talk about this, in confronting the African Studies grandees in 1995. And our sister Carol Boyce Davis will talk about some of those struggles in upstate New York. The point is, at this moment, what Micere Mugo stood for in terms of peace, working in the Peace Council, and we cannot have a symposium today without saying that Micere Mugo was against all forms of settler colonialism, whether it was apartheid in Zimbabwe, whether it was apartheid in South Africa, and she opposed apartheid and colonialism and settler colonialism in Palestine. We would have to say in the symposium very clearly where we stand in relationship to the people of Palestine. So I want to join with all of those who came here together to say the celebration of Micere Mugo in this symposium and its objectives are consistent with what is said, the tireless pursuit for us to be better human beings. Thank you very much.
Thank you.